we need to gain. Number one, I am always going to go back to the aspect of choosing your niche. So for those of you that are not familiar, a niche is a specialized segment of the market that you are planning to prepare and stage your listing for. This does not necessarily mean that those outside of the niche, for some of you, I know you said families, some of you said couples, some of you said, okay, these are going to be like healthcare workers. That does not necessarily mean that is the only people, or those are the only people we are accepting. It just means that this is the target or the audience we are going to have in mind when we are furnishing this unit, because number one, they are the guests that we can best serve, meaning we can provide the best experience for. Because for many of you, you already have a connection with some of these people, meaning that you might identify as like a mother with a small family who would be traveling. You identify as a healthcare worker, and that is how you're then able to speak to that experience. But again, I just want to make it very clear that we are not saying that these are the only people that you can accept. Just understand that when you do accept these people who you've outlined your listing for and furnished it for, they are going to be the ones that, if you do this correctly, they're providing you with the best reviews. They are not having any like many issues within your listing because you've created it or curated it with them in mind. So really with choosing your niche, it helps you to manage the expectations of you as the host as well as your guests. Because really the main piece that I like to make clear for everyone is that most times when you are receiving a negative review, you're worried about the guest experience. It's because those expectations were not managed prior to. So many times it's guests thinking that, okay, I expected to see, I don't know, a house with 2 couches in there, and then I walked in and there was 1. It's really surrounding that accuracy and making sure that you're just managing what they are expecting to see and experience when they come to your home. If you're saying that you're providing a luxury experience and you talk it up in your listing, in your details and everything, and you said that you wanted to provide a luxury feel, make sure that you're actually upholding your end of the deal when that guest then arrives. Don't call it luxury in your listing, and then when they arrive, the experience is less than that. It makes it a lot harder. Even furthermore, this just allows you to focus on actually serving this segment so that you can, again, just better market to them and maximize your host earnings. Because once you really create the best experience for your specific kind of guest, they are willing to pay whatever for that experience. Obviously within reason, but many of you like to go the route of saying, okay, what is the average nightly rate for this area? Let me go look up a number of other apartments that are within this area and see what they're charging. And in my mind, to me, that is a little bit of hustling backwards, right? We're working backwards because we want to not necessarily be at where the market is, but we want to be above the market to make sure that we're maximizing earnings, not just making sure that we're increasing that occupancy. So with that, with maximizing your host earnings, it's really just making sure that you're creating that good experience so that even if it's a weekend where, for instance, if you are targeting travel nurses, healthcare workers, and there's a healthcare convention or conference coming to town, you are no longer at the average nightly rate because you provide that specific experience for that specific segment, and you can charge way more. So hopefully that piece makes sense. And then of course, this just reduces the stress that many hosts experience with unwanted parties, because I know for many of you, none of you, I'm not even going to say many of you, but all of you, none of you chose a niche that said, I want people who are willing or wanting to party in my unit. None of you did. So when you actually choose that niche, that is then going to help you to, again, just lessen that experience of unwarranted parties, because you know who is actually going into your unit and what they're here for. Many times, if we don't, usually a party happens when we don't know what these people are in town for, or they're locals, which that goes into a completely separate aspect that we're going to talk about next week, of whether or not, or being weary of actually approving stays from people who are already within the city. So if you're in Miami, there's no reason for you likely to be booking an Airbnb in Miami, unless you are trying to do something again. So that just makes the most sense. Okay, so the different factors that actually influence your niche. Number one, that is going to be location. So you all know that we spoke about this. Where you are is going to influence the type of people you are going to attract. For many of you that initially tried to say you wanted to be in the city center of Midtown, right in Buckhead, that is what's going to attract the people who come to Atlanta, and they are here for the party, they're here for the club. So that is going to influence your niche choice, but understand that just because you are right in the city does not mean that you have to choose those people who are coming to the city to party. There are many things going on. We just have to step outside of our own frame of thinking to get to that point. That second factor that influences your niche choice is, of course, the amenities and the attractions that are both within your unit as well as outside of your unit. So let's say that you are targeting families. If you have a pool that is actually going to be open for guests, that is, of course, a really, really good amenity that's then going to attract more families who are coming on vacation your way. That is just going to make the most sense. And then that third factor is just number 3, your desired involvement level as a host. Understand that different guests are going to have a different level of neediness depending on the type of niche that you choose. So let's say you choose a niche that is a family and they are just used to traveling. They may bring extra snacks every single time. They're not really worried about bringing towels because they're used to traveling with kids and they're traveling with extra amenities all the time. That's going to influence how involved you are as a host versus if you are targeting someone or you approve someone who this is their first time staying in an Airbnb in the first place. And they are expecting the experience to be like a hotel. So they are calling you at every point. Hey, can we get some towels? Hey, this is wrong. Hey, we need this, because they are just not used to that experience. These are just the different factors that, again, further influence your choice of a niche, which most of us have already chosen. And for those of you that are on the call, I would love it if just for everyone else so that they can get an idea of where those different pieces are. Based on our one-on-one, what niche did you choose and where are you leaning toward the most? If you can just drop it in the chat, just so that other folks can see what those ideas are and where most of you are. And it might help if you attach that with where you are looking to start, meaning your location. So tourists in Miami, tourists who are coming for entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So when we're thinking about just niches, right? And again, this is why I asked you all to drop yours in the chat, because a niche, there are a number of them that you can choose. And even furthermore, it's not just your typical, okay, corporate travelers and healthcare workers and families. Of course, you have those and they are the most common, but you are able to also target folks that are in entertainment. That works great here in Atlanta because we are one of the epicenters for entertainment. Those that are seeking a unique experience, such as a tiny house, that helps with us, right? We specifically get people who say, I just travel around to stay in tiny houses just to experience that. People who are wanting just to relax, people who are wanting to come into the city and bar hop. That is a niche that you can choose. Small groups of friends, couples, and even just those that are dropping in the chat. Brittany, families and couples who want a small city feel. Tina, travel nurses and tourists coming to concerts for the Toyota Music Factory. Atlanta and Marietta, families and couples seeking Atlanta travel and entertainment. Michael's in Long Beach for the tourists and the couples, not families, because she does not want to deal with those kids. But okay, all right, perfect. So yes, but I love it. Just understand that you can get very creative with this. We have someone within cohort 2 who, again, she's targeting those that are within the healthcare industry. But what her end goal is to more so get to that point of being able to provide housing for those who have just had surgery in locations like Atlanta and Miami, because those are hot locations where most people are having cosmetic surgeries. And because she is licensed to do that, that is now a niche that she's now thought about and created specifically for her that she can perfectly tap into. So just understand that there are a number of niches that you can choose within this game, and understand also that a niche does not necessarily mean that it is small. It just means that it's specific. It is a specific type of person that you are looking for. It does not necessarily have to be a small group of people. Are there any questions up until this point just about your niche, how that fits into this entire short-term rental and hosting methodology? Okay, I feel like it makes more sense because we all talked about it on our one-on-ones. Okay. Okay. So again, now through understanding that niche, you are able to better choose a theme for your unit. So I want you all, before we even hop into themes, to understand that not everyone is going to create a themed unit. Some people have opted for that just because based on their location, based on where they are in the city, the type of experiences that they've had and they're willing to provide, that they are now wanting to choose a theme. But just because you have a niche does not necessarily mean you need to choose a theme. However, I like to mention it just because this is another way to, again, maximize those earnings for a very specific segment of the audience. So one really good example that I like to mention is for instance, there's a host out in Austell. Austell, Georgia is about 20 minutes outside of Atlanta, about 20 minutes west outside of Atlanta, but it's near Six Flags. Their particular target is like smaller girls or families who are celebrating a young girl's birthday. So how they theme the unit, that is their niche, but how they theme the unit is it's all like pretty unicorns. It's purple unicorns. It's a lot of places for little girls to take photos and just create a really good sleepover experience. But because of that niche and the amenities and the location that they have, they were then able to tap into a really good theme, which then helps because at that point, there's always someone celebrating their birthday, even if there's not always high traffic going on at Six Flags. So that then helps them to complement those earnings that they're making. So again, more than anything, you really just want to provide your guests with an experience, because even though people won't always remember what you say, they are always going to remember how you made them feel. And even furthermore, how your house and your listing, whether it's a house or an apartment, made them feel as well. So just understand that themes work great for units that are located outside of the city center, that may be located outside of the city center, because the theme is typically what's going to attract the guests to your unit rather than that location. So some of those themes, I just listed a few just as examples. Girls' night out, boys' night out, meaning like the girls' night out, I've seen they have pink inside the unit. I don't know. Boys' night out, I've seen kegs, different pieces like that, to where people are actually catering to those that may be celebrating their bachelorette or their bachelor party. Smaller events have become a lot more popular at Airbnbs now, meaning that, hey, I am looking to host a really small baby shower, or, a really small family dinner, a really small birthday dinner. A game night, a family fun type of thing where there's a bunch of just games that you have. A night in the theater, meaning that you might have a projector rather than a TV in the living room, and then you might even go all out and get a popcorn machine. Going green thing, meaning that everything within there is like reusable, recyclable. I've seen those. Immersing people within the city. So if you're in Atlanta and people are traveling to Atlanta, within the unit, it's everything about Atlanta. There's portraits of Atlanta. There's different pieces about the city and what they could do located inside the unit. And that's a really easy thing to go with. Pretty in Pink, an 80s and 90s theme, and even like a Zen or relaxation theme, where people are now beginning to put massage chairs inside of their Airbnb unit. And now it's helping to cater to those couples or people coming to the city to relax. But again, these are just additional ways that you are able to tap more into other people and just their wants and their needs. Again, how that marketing comes into play. But the Zen one is a really, really good one, especially for those that I've seen, at least here in Georgia, right about located around Stone Mountain and other like nature parks, trails. People just coming for that, absolutely. So some helpful tips just to think about before you are actually furnishing your unit. Number one, my recommendation is to always print out a floor plan. So for those of you that are getting to the point of you are applying, you are now, thinking about what you can put within this unit, how you are really going to market this unit, who's going to be the best type of guest. Print out a floor plan for the chosen apartment or home, just so that you can start visualizing that setup early on. For many of you, you are getting started with business credit. Meaning that these trade lines that you are now buying from, you are likely going to continue buying from, and you may get linens or whatever from them later down the line. You want to get to that point where you are now applying to business credit cards and charge cards. And most of you already know, again, if we've had our one-on-one, that in that instance, you are really working against the clock, especially if you are wanting to purely go the business credit route. It's a matter of working against the clock, because for most of this business credit, it is going to be on a set invoice term, even if you go with a business charge card. Again, for many of you, you know that those have to be closed out mostly at a 30-day mark, unless you have a business credit card already, which is able to carry over a balance. So when we think about that, we want to make sure that from the moment that we get into that unit, we are not necessarily rushing to get it furnished, but we are using our time wisely and very smart, so that by the time that first time comes where we have to pay rent again, we already have money coming in from Airbnb so that it is paying for itself. Hopefully that piece makes sense. Number two, just determine your budget early. For many of you, we've already talked through this in terms of how much you are willing and wanting to spend, how much is really needed in order to get started with Airbnb. Number three, just purchase your standard or your common items first, things that you already know you are certainly going to need. This is including linens, sheets, towels, small kitchen appliances, decor pillows, throws. Again, no matter your niche or your theme, you know that you are going to need these items. So if you have space to store them and you are willing to use your business credit in order to do that, again, so that it's working up to build that business credit score, then these are the items that I suggest actually purchasing first, rather than trying to find the couch and the bed because you don't know how the unit looks just yet. And then just make sure that you know before you go, meaning before you go to these stores, it is very easy to get into this. And Tina, if she is still on as well, I know she's getting started with furnishing her unit. She's starting to realize it's very easy to get into this. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize how much I was spending. Because if you know before you go, know your color scheme, know how many of each item you're going to want and need, that helps you easily, again, more easily make those purchases rather than just going to grab things, and just make sure that you're keeping track of what you are purchasing as well. And I would say especially those linens, towels, sheets, because those are going to be the first things that you are going to be like, wait, we only got 2 sheets. I thought I bought 16, because these are the most common items that are either stolen or misplaced through laundry, being passed off with cleaners, guests getting into your unit and them stripping sheets themselves because they're just not used to how checkout works with Airbnb. Sometimes they've been in other Airbnbs that have wanted them to strip the sheets before they leave. Others are not stripping the sheets, but I would just say those items that, again, are more standard or common, buy those first and just know how many of each you're wanting to get so that you can actually know what inventory you have on hand. That just better helps with your cleaning team later down the line as well. And then, of course, using Pinterest. Pinterest is your absolute best friend in terms of like thinking about, how do I make a standard or economy space feel luxury? What type of theme ideas could I really have? That is where you want to go. It's where I go. And then even furthermore, there are a ton of resources specifically for Airbnb hosts on Pinterest too, meaning that if you're someone who you care really greatly about providing a guest book and making sure that, you know, everything's cutesy and you want to have a binder that they sign when they get in, you can find a number of templates for all of that located on Pinterest as well. Okay, so I see Michael in the chat. You love the Zen theme idea. I love that too. So your unit has somewhat of an older fridge. How important is it to have newer appliances? I would say, again, go back to thinking about who is your niche. Are they coming more for like updated amenities and all of that? Like, are they wanting more of a luxury experience, or are they just coming to really be within that location and they don't care greatly about those newer appliances? My entire premise of everything is just, if you manage expectations, you let guests know that, hey, this is more of a classic home that you are entering into. You know, that's why we are able to have a reasonable price. So we do not have newer appliances. If you give them the heads up and you have that within the listing, so that they are then making that decision of whether or not, I see the fridge in the pictures, am I still going to book and then complain about it in a review when I saw it in the pictures? Probably not. So just making sure that you're managing those expectations. And then I see Brittany, you said, where do I recommend to buy linens? Linens, I usually say Amazon. If you are wanting to, again, keep building that business credit, Granger has linens as well, meaning like sheets and I believe towels too. And Hotel Supply Depot is another one. So if you go into the Facebook group within our guides, you'll still be able to see a breakdown of all of the stores, both like that are physical stores, brick and mortar, as well as online. You'll see a breakdown of what we recommend in the Facebook group, but we're also going to go through it here as well. But linens, in terms of comforters, and even I've mentioned this as well before to other folks, like mattresses and bed frames, especially if you're looking for something really simple that does the job. Amazon has really, really good options on platform bed frames, even headboards. In addition to their mattresses, the Zionist mattresses are absolutely amazing. They're like the mattresses that are in a box. You remove it from the box and it just fills up with the air itself. Really, really reasonably priced. And I still have my first one that is in really good shape when I started Airbnb 3 years ago. So it's been good and pretty sturdy. But yes, the list helped a lot. Exactly. Like in terms of, we do have a list of just things to remember when furnishing within the Facebook group as well. So if you are ever thinking about, okay, what should I buy right now? What should I be thinking about? Or what can I see what I already have in my apartment unit? Go within the group and you'll see that list to furnish as well. In addition to, it'll also be within the modules within Teachable once we actually make that live at 9 a.m. tomorrow, all of the materials for this module that we're covering this week. And the name of the mattress was Zionist.